courtesy of the website YouTube channel Cash Jordan. I want to thank Cash Jordan for uploading this.
ICE says at least 40 people were taken into custody on the Vineyard and Nantucket. The agency claims that the group included a documented member of the MS-13 street gang.
So ICE agents just took down gang members and criminals living illegally in one of America's wealthiest neighborhoods. A shocking operation which saw arrests in Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, where you can rent President Obama's former home for just $50,000 a week. But while activists decry these arrests as unjust, saying they will disrupt the lives of the wealthy, nobody wants to explain why communities like this are harboring dangerous gang members.
ICE on the island, immigration and FBI agents rounded up at least 40 undocumented people on both Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard.
A Tuesday morning wake-up call on Nantucket Island.
That ICE was on the island, that they were stopping cars and vehicles around the mid-island area.
People are being picked up. We have no information about their circumstance.
I think it could be any of us next. The island has a history of supporting people who are different.
There is no sanctuary for illegal aliens in this country. You can call it a sanctuary jurisdiction all you want. It's a bunch of crap, and we all know it. Sanctuary jurisdiction says, well, we want to protect the immigrant community. They want us in the jail arresting that bad guy.
Elio Silva, owner of Bobby B's and several other businesses, says fear will impact the economy.
Yeah, the whole community is scared, but also is not economically visible because people who are not going to spend the money.
But because they're forcing in the neighborhood, more non-criminal targets are being arrested because ICE agents are not going to walk away from illegal aliens. You force us to go find the bad guy, many times they're with others. They're coming too.
So the Boston Globe thinks these ICE raids are going to shut down these exclusive Massachusetts neighborhoods permanently. But what nobody's talking about is while the rich tend to be the biggest defenders of illegal immigration, these are also the people who could afford to hire folks legally and don't for some reason. And we're learning that during these raids, MS-13 gang members and their associates were discovered operating as laborers at local construction sites and serving the elite at local vacation destinations. Jobs which could easily go to American legal workers, but instead are being taken by people in the country illegally working under the table. And while the folks in this community say that these raids are wrong and unjust and un-American, there's nothing American about breaking the law and refusing to hire people in America with permission, which it looks like this whole place does on a regular basis as they exploit an illegal population, bust into town to serve a community they aren't allowed to live in. And although the residents here say they live in a compassionate society, no business or homeowner hires people illegally for any reason other than saving money. Which brings us to the real reason these raids are causing so much controversy. They're happening in a very progressive part of America that benefits greatly from illegal immigration and illegal labor at the expense of the rest of America. And while these wealthy homeowners and business owners save thousands on labor costs while employing people off the books, the rest of our country suffers as the jobs the rich give to illegals just act as a magnet and tempt more criminals to enter our country illegally with the goal of hiding in plain sight, just like this guy.
He's running. He's running. They're running.
That's an MS-13 gang member being taken down by ICE agents at an oceanside business in California. And what did he say? He said, "Oh, I'm just working here, leave me alone." But he was actually hiding in plain sight with a rap sheet that includes 2 capital crimes, which he allegedly committed in El Salvador before fleeing to America. And the question now is, why would a bunch of rich Americans want these people as illegal laborers scattered throughout their community? Well, as you're about to see, their desire to harbor and enable criminals has absolutely nothing to do with reality.
Images of federal agents on Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket spread quickly yesterday. ICE officials say they detained 40 immigrants in the U.S. illegally. 2 are alleged to be criminals, but no details have been released. Many here are raising concerns, questioning whether due process is being followed, and also concerned about the impact on the economy as this vacation destination.
So that's interesting. Very interesting. I mean, I don't want to interrupt the commercial, but it is interesting.
So details have been released. We know that one of these people was part of MS-13. The other person had a very horrible criminal record as well. But now there are concerns that local businesses won't be able to stay in business if the people working at them all get deported by ICE. But if this were truly about employment and staying open and serving guests, these companies could hire people legally. There's nothing stopping them from doing that, to have them work at a restaurant or at a former president's luxury home, which costs more money to rent per week than many people will see this year. This place has a sizable lawn. It's on sale right now for $39 million. Trimming the grass at a place like this, that could put your kids through college. This is a super awesome landscaping job. It's got a guest house, got a pool. It's a nice place. There's not too many American landscaping companies that wouldn't want to trim luxury lawns. Yeah, we're supposed to believe Americans don't want these jobs. Really?
People are being picked up. We have no information about their circumstance. There have been real questions raised about due process, and whether or not ICE and immigration officials are complying with due process.
I think it could be any of us next.
Martha's Vineyard resident Jane Cash held a sign yesterday at the Vineyard Haven terminal warning visitors.
The island has a history of supporting.
What does she mean it could be any of us next? If this person's in the country legally, they have nothing to worry about from a police force whose job it is to go through the country and find dangerous people who aren't here legally. This is ridiculous thinking, but this is the type of misinformation and fear that these people are spreading. These people are part of the problem. They're not part of the solution. And here they are, sticking up for gang members, they're co-conspirators and offenders with horrible rap sheets that were actually the ones being taken down. And you know something, if the people on that boat were a bunch of American gang members, no business would hire them. Nobody would feel sympathy for them. We would all say, yep, these people got what they deserve, take them away. But because they're here illegally, for some reason every business here wants to hire these people. And all these residents are claiming that they could be next, also being deported. This is ridiculous. And we all know why they've got this viewpoint. They don't like the president. They don't like President Trump. They think that his crackdown on people that are here and are dangerous are wrong. So now the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And we are co-inhabitants of planet Earth just trying to get by together.
Of supporting people who are different, supporting immigrants. Everyone in this country is entitled to due process, whether they have paperwork or they don't.
Elio Silva, owner of Bobby B's and several other businesses, says fear will impact the economy because even immigrants here legally will stay home.
Immigrants here legally will stay home. Well, if they listen to the people being interviewed, then any of us could be next. Of course they're going to stay home because they're believing something that is demonstrably false and untrue. They're living in a fantasy that sees an iron curtain descending upon America and sees innocent, good people who are here legally being taken away for no reason, which is not happening. ICE is out there looking for gang members, terror watch list threats. It says it right here on their website that they're going after the worst of the worst first. Everyone they take down has committed a crime or was found in the vicinity of someone who was also bad news while being in the country illegally, which is also a crime. And when ICE sends a team of its 6,000 enforcement agents to find people, sometimes with the help of a SWAT unit, that just goes to show you how dangerous and unpredictable these gang members are. Yet for some reason we have these highly educated rich people living in Massachusetts who think that they're next. This is just bizarre. But as you're about to see, somebody on the news is going to spill the beans as to why they're really upset about this.
Economy, because even immigrants here legally will stay home.
Is to do in a way that you get the whole community scared, and I think that's it's not humane, but also is not economic visible because people who are not going to spend the money.
So here's a restaurant owner who I'm going to guess is in the country legally and is very successful because here they are on TV at their restaurant. But he just told us what this is really about. He says he can't run his business. He's got to hire people legally. He says it's just going to cost too much for people to go there and he won't make any money. And that's That's the real reason. At least he's honest. And to be honest, if he really wanted to keep his business open, he would explain to other legal immigrants working at his business that they don't have anything to worry about if they're here in a proper capacity. But that's not what these people want you to think. They are grifting off the rest of America by hiring people illegally for less than fair wages, possibly having them work in exploitative conditions at their restaurants or on their wharfs, or trimming their multi-million-dollar lawns, and they're upset that that could all go away. They're upset that their pocketbooks could be affected in a manner that they disagree with, since here they are benefiting from illegal immigration. Why on earth would they ever want that to stop when it helps them so much? And the reality of the situation here is that greed and illegal immigration, these two things, are a match made in hell.
In a statement, federal officials say ICE and our federal partners made a strong stand for prioritizing public safety by arresting and removing illegal aliens from our New England neighborhoods. Now, ICE so far has not released many names or details, but says that 2 of those detained, one is a documented member of the MS-13 street gang, and there's also at least one...
Okay, the people that got picked up in these recent raids, these were not hardworking family men who had never done anything wrong. First of all, they're in the country illegally, which is wrong. Second of all, they've got rap sheets that none of us would ever want to find ourselves by. We don't want to be near people who have rap sheets like that and could be very dangerous. Of course not. The most dangerous thing you could do for your customers at a restaurant would be to staff it full of gang members and people with active warrants. Who knows what these people could be doing when they're not at work? Could they bring their crime to the restaurant with them? Could they be engaging in criminal activity that harms people? Of course that's a terrible situation, but we've got to get to the issue of due process, which these folks can't seem to get through their heads, applies differently to folks who might not be in the country in a legal capacity and may have snuck in.
That in a time of invasion. So it's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. At the end of the day, Congress passed a body of law known as the Immigration and Nationality Act, which stripped Article 3 courts, that's the judicial branch, of jurisdiction over immigration cases. So Congress actually passed, it's called jurisdiction stripping legislation. It passed a number of laws that say that the Article 3 courts aren't even allowed to be involved in immigration cases. Many of you probably don't know this. I'll give you a good example. Are you familiar with the term temporary protected status, or TPS, right? So, by statute, the courts are stripped of jurisdiction from overruling a presidential determination or a secretarial determination on TPS when the Secretary of Homeland Security makes that determination. So when Secretary Noem terminated TPS for the illegals that Biden flew into the country, when courts stepped in, they were violating explicit language that Congress had enacted, saying they have no jurisdiction. So it's not just the courts aren't just at war with the executive branch, the courts are at war, these radical rogue judges, with the legislative branch as well, too. So,
okay, so the gist of this is that court proceedings and due process work differently for people who aren't supposed to be here than for people who are supposed to be here. Something activists are very upset about. Due process for illegal immigrants simply means confirmation that they do not have American citizenship and then removing them from the country. Under federal law, they are not entitled to court appearances or a jury trial, as some Democrats naively assume. What this means is that you do not deport people who have a right to be in the country. That is the due process. Do they have a right to be here? Yes or no? Okay, then you get to stay or you have to go.
And of course, self-evidently, of course they have to be deported. You can't have a situation where the Biden administration can fly in 500,000 illegal aliens in the last 24 months, and we're having a conversation about, oh, maybe they should get to stay for life. They've been here for 24 months, they were flown into our country illegally, and the good news is the airplanes travel in 2 directions. Next question.
What? I mean, this sounds harsh, but the reality is people were brought into the country in a manner that was against the law to begin with. They were given court cases, which allowed them to get protected status, that protected them from deportation, allowed them to stay here while those court cases played out. The court case and the charges were a reward for sneaking into America illegally. This whole thing has been a scam on the American public since day one, and you've got people out there defending it because their businesses and their front lawns benefit from illegal immigration because they don't have to spend as much money and they think they're out there saving the world from Donald Trump, when reality couldn't be further from the truth. Every single person working illegally in America is just an incentive for other people to pay criminal organizations and cartels for them to be snuck into the country so they can flee to sanctuary cities and try to do the exact same thing. And all that does is empower a growing criminal underworld, which uses that money to do things and victimize people in ways that are just too horrible to even discuss. We've got to put a stop to it. If we don't put a stop to it, it's going to keep happening. And to me, the craziest part of this story is that you've got these rich people who serve rich guests at a vacation destination for some of the wealthiest residents of America and the entire world, and they can't pay fair wages and hire people legally. They can't do that. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. And it also doesn't make sense to me that folks would be okay with the perpetrators of heinous crimes with horrible gang affiliations just openly existing in their community and being protected. These are people that absolutely nobody wants to live near because of how dangerous they are. However, if these folks happen to be in the country illegally, it's almost as if none of that matters to these activists. But what do you think? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching.
You cannot convince Democrats who are obsessed with immigration at any cost, especially wealthy Democrats who benefit from illegals. And that's what's going on. That is the bottom line. It is saving money to have illegals, saving wealthy Democrats a lot of money so that they don't have to hire American citizens who wouldn't mind learning the craft of yard care. If the illegals can do yard care and work in these restaurants, so can American legal citizens. The jobs are there, but the wealthy Democrats want to save a lot of money. They don't want to hire Americans. That's the bottom line, people. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. But they call it due process. And they get all these young fools out there protesting, risking being captured, while the wealthy Democrats, you know, are hoping that we have a Democrat takeover so that they can cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. It's all about the Benjamins, people. It's all about the Benjamins.